So I'm Elizabeth Sanders Park. Are either of you familiar with the Workplace Excellence Series? Have you used it in the past? Okay, so Kelly, you are familiar with it. All right, we'd love to hear a little bit about that. Kelly, I'd love to hear a little bit about where each of you work and a little bit about the work that you do. So let's start with that.
Uh,
Kelly, where do you work these days and what do you do?
so I am with Flagler Housing and Homeless Services at St. Joseph's Villa, and I am in Richmond, Virginia, and I am the Director of Program Operations here at Flagler. And I have been working in the workforce arena. I initially started off as the workforce um, coordinator, doing all workforce, everything. And so I received my GCDF, which is the
Mhm.
Global Career Development Facilitator certification. And then I went through a workplace excellence, I think last year in
Yeah,
March.
you must have been trained by Sandy Smith or by
Correct.
Shawanda at the
Yes.
center. Okay, so you are familiar. Very
Yes.
good. And you were with St. Joseph's when you went through that training.
Correct.
Very good. All right. Carl, tell us where you work and where in the country you are.
Sure. I'm in Maryland right now, and I'm part of the Baltimore County Workforce Development at the county level. And what we are interested in is just how we can take what you guys know and what materials you have and maybe connect those to youth in the area because we're trying to examine pathways for rising juniors and seniors and young professionals in community colleges, how they might, leverage some of these skills, some of this knowledge, and use it for
Very
their own
good.
benefit entering the workforce.
And you're with DEWD too, right?
That's right. Yeah.
When you say rising juniors and seniors, do you mean high school juniors and seniors coming into the community college?
It's both, actually. So we work with the rising juniors and seniors entering college for the first time, but I also collaborate with UMBC, Towson, and CCBC for those students leaving their programs that might be entering the workforce. We work with American Job Centers as well, the WIOA staff that are there to try and create a long-term pathway for students as
So
they.
coming out of colleges as well.
Exactly, right.
Very exciting. Now, DEWD has used this series in the past. Are you familiar with that?
I am. I'm here to sort of learn more and see what it might relate to what I'm working on. I'm currently trying to create classroom materials for students at the
Okay,
high school level, but also in the middle school and then college levels.
very good. Have you seen the original Workplace Excellence series, Carl?
No, I'm brand new to this role, so I'm
Okay,
excited to learn, but I can dive in, and learn more.
great. Very good. So, I will endeavor to, I'm going to give you a little bit of framework about um, the original series and how it was built, and a little bit about the evolution. And then I'd love to hear your questions. So, both of your organizations have some touch with this series. I know that St. Joseph's has not used it extensively, so I'd love to hear your questions and how you want to use it. And
Right.
then, Carl, we're getting clearer on your questions.
And
Um,
for the villa, I actually was going to be working with Office of Community Wealth Building and
mhm.
assisting with some of the trainings that they needed. So when I went through the trainings, it was with the understanding that I would be able to help Shawanda with any of the trainings that they were doing there. So
Very good.
yes,
And is that what you're thinking about as you're here today?
yes, yes,
Okay, not necessarily for St. Joseph's,
correct.
more for, okay, very good, very
Yes.
good.
As part
Um,
of the workforce partnership.
Very good. So the original Workplace Excellence series was built. There's a couple important things to know about it. It was built with businesses, with employers. It actually came out of Maryland, out of Central Maryland, Anne Arundel County. And AAWDC wanted a solution for their job seeking individuals because of the lack of soft skills. Employers were crying out for the need of soft skills, not just in youth workers, not just in entry level workers, but really across industries and all the way up the chain of command. Um, not only for higher level workers, but we have this situation where the soft skills that help you get a particular job help you keep that job. But if you want to get a raise or a promotion, suddenly the network you have, or the wardrobe you have, or your communication skills, what got you here won't get you there. So you've got to evolve those soft skills in the same way you need to evolve your hard skills. So it is a skill that continues, a need that continues to rear its head as people ascend their career ladders or move amongst industries. So it is not just an entry level challenge. And so AAWDC partnered with an organization. It happens to be the organization that I run. We did the research, the writing, and we worked with businesses to do that, to solve this problem or respond to this challenge for Central Maryland in Anne Arundel County. But of course, every county across the country has this same challenge. Every business across the country, every industry is crying out for this a solution to this problem. So this solution was created and is used across the country. But one of the hallmark truths about it is that it was built with businesses. And actually, AAWDC did not bring me in to create a solution. They brought me in to find a solution. And that was our first journey. We looked to find a solution that would work. And we found things that they weren't bad, but they weren't made for workforce development. They were sort of made maybe for education, but sort of for juvenile education, sort of elementary education. They were kind of juvenile in feel, or they were very corporate in feel. One of the big missing pieces was they really seemed to lack the employer's perspective. One of the overwhelming senses I had as I read a lot of it is, I wonder who wrote this, because I don't think they've ever run a business. I don't think they've ever hired and fired people. They seem to come from nonprofit or academia. I don't think they've had budgetary responsibility. I don't think they've really dealt a lot with profit. And so it was just a big blind spot. So for that and other reasons, we ended up creating a series. And one of the most important things we did is that we gathered a cadre of businesses that hired across industries and really at all levels, because we didn't want a solution that was just for sort of entry level or minimum wage workers. So that's a huge important part of this series. Another big piece of this series is, and this is an expertise that, again, I and my team brought to this process, and that is, until recently, I wrote an article for Training Magazine. I'm a trainer of trainers. I love to train individuals. I also love to train trainers to train individuals. And I've done a lot of study and a lot of work in the brain science that underpins great training and powerful learning. So this series is built on brain science that accelerates learning, and that there's this idea of teaching it quick and making it stick. And one of the most important things to think about when we think of soft skills is not what you know. There is a reason why great soft skills training is hard to find, and great soft skills curriculum is hard to find. And I think one of the reasons is this is not knowledge transfer. Nobody cares if somebody can pass the quiz. And sometimes you look at the other solutions you could use, and you can buy into computerized systems where you put someone in front of a computer. And when we talk to businesses about this, what about buying into some of these systems where you sit somebody in front of a computer and they learn how to do these very uniquely human skills sitting in front of a computer? And businesses owners would say, I think that's not the solution. I think that's actually part of the problem. And they would learn from a computer how to deliver these uniquely human skills. And the quizzes would say things like, being on time in the workforce is, if your shift starts at 8 o'clock, on time is 8 o'clock. A. B, on time is, within 20 minutes of your start time, as long as nobody says anything. C is, as long as you get there before your boss, you're good. And D is 5 to 15 minutes early. And I review this and think, does anybody get this wrong? Right. And of course it's D. And my thought as I went through a lot of these other offerings is, everybody knows the answer. But that's not the right question. The question is, when the alarm doesn't go off, or the weather goes crazy, or there's traffic or construction you didn't remember or know about, or you forgot to set the alarm, or you watched one too many Law and Orders or binged something, or, like, what time do you roll in? Last week, How many days out of 5 were you there 5 to 15 minutes? If I ask somebody who actually is honest and knows you, how many times last month did you roll in at least 3 minutes before you were supposed to be there? And not just roll in and then find a cup of coffee and greet everybody and wander over here and then finally, I mean, how many times were you where you were supposed to be, good to go? It's not what you know, it's what you do. And it's what you do in these, moments of reaction. And we're trying to teach and to impact and influence, when the alarm goes off and you want to snooze it one more time. That's what we're trying to teach and impact, these ways of thinking, these habits, these beliefs. And we're bumping into value systems, and we're bumping into family culture and all kinds of, you know, stuff. And so it is a challenge to teach this. And so the way we teach it, what we teach is important, but how we teach it is as important as what we teach. And so the fact that this is built upon these brain science based strategies for deep teaching and deep learning, you know, it is incredibly important. So it's built with employers and businesses. It's built on this foundation of brain science. So I think those are two of the most important things. I'll show you a couple of the Evolve modules, and it'll probably be. I hope it's exciting to you, Carl. And Kelly, I don't know if you've seen the original modules. I think you probably have, so maybe it'll be even more refreshing to you. Um, but in the original module, we had sort of boxes and straight lines and colorful, but it looked a certain way. And now everything is curvier. Everything is in motion. Um, and we've really done away with a lot of the straight lines because we're going, we're walking, we're moving. One of the challenges we had in evolving this series, and this is not the first time we tried to do this. It's actually the third time we tried to do this. And the first time we tried a couple of years ago, I began the research and I had to come back to the team and say, we can't do this right now. I don't know what mark we're trying to hit. And I would say right now, the sands continue to shift. We are walking on shifting sand. But a couple of years ago, I was like, I don't even know what rules we're trying to teach them to follow. Like things are moving so quickly. I don't know. But now it's like, okay, we've got enough of a target we can write to it, but everything, it's like we're the idea of sort of fueling the plane in flight. We're building it's very much in motion. And so we deliberately chose the term evolved. This is not 2.0, like boom, here's the new one. We'll do this for a while. It's not, updated as if it's now going to be static for a minute. It is evolved, it's evolving. So it's almost like a living document. So it's not going to be another 10 years or probably another 5 before we evolve this again. So we're going, we're walking, we're moving. And that's probably the third dynamic to know about the evolved curriculum, is that it is becoming almost a living document in response to this changing workforce. So I'll show you some of the evolved curriculum, but I'm curious at this point, what are your questions or your reflections at this point? Something you're hearing that you like, or is there pushback or curiosity? I don't know if we lost Kelly. She'll come
Yeah,
back to us.
maybe. It's too bad. I love what I'm hearing so far. I really am interested mainly in what those materials might look like and what the experience is, your, I think, uh, perspective is mainly from the employers, which is what you said, and also how that pertains to, adults that are entering the workforce and what soft skills they lack. That is the number one thing we're hearing from employers as we do what we're doing is the soft skills. And you mentioned showing up on time. Of course, that's an
Yeah,
incredible challenge, especially when we speak to. So I, I taught high school for the last 12 years, and getting students to show up to class on time, that's a challenge in its own right. So
yeah,
communicating that
yes,
to those kids, and then keeping that communication going as they continue through their young adult development professionally is really important. We, well, I want to know just, how we make that connection. You talked about the brain science, which I love to hear. I
Mhm.
have my master's in a similar,
Yes.
mindset, trying to induce that flow and that proximal zone of development, those, basic psych ideas, but are so often sort of not considered when materials are made. And what I currently am working on, just to be specific, is these push-in sessions. We're trying to meet with students and have workshops that revolve all around, there's resume creation, there's the soft skills that you mentioned, there's personal branding, a little bit of marketing, but we want to try and connect for the kids who are so involved in the new world, especially the digital world and what that
Mhm.
means, to the old school and still tried and true, and still, for the majority, what counts when it comes to networking and developing yourself. You mentioned how you dress, all these things I think are kind of missing to young people today for various reasons.
Yeah.
Some they just don't believe it. But the more we have trusted adults that speak to them and say, these are the real things you need to consider, the better. So,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm excited to see what it looks like, and to see what I think, will work for, you mentioned it's developed in Anne Arundel, so I have a feeling it's
Yeah.
not too far from what we're looking for as well. We just, I'm thinking of kids that are close to the city lines. I worked in Dundalk. I go around to Lansdowne, Catonsville. I actually grew up in Ellicott City, so not far from my home. But point
Yeah.
being, there's a lot of variation. If you look at a kid maybe in like Harford County or Carroll County,
Mhm.
Howard County, and then you compare them to Baltimore County or Anne Arundel or, PG, Montgomery, a lot of really excellent students and also just a lot of variation in the way that they learn, their home life,
Yeah.
the parents that they have and what roles those parents are
Yeah.
working in, what professional skills they demonstrate. So, you know, I want to know how to create the delta, between where they stand, meet them where they are, but
Nice.
guide them as easily as possible. Right.
Maryland is such a diverse state.
Yeah,
I feel like
exactly.
it is a state with the most unique shape, with such a
Mm.
bizarre shape, but I think that represents the diversity,
Yeah, there's
um,
some people call it America in miniature, not just geographically,
really.
but also, yeah, demographically. We've
Yeah.
got sort of a little of everything.
I mean, I'm in the city and then I'm in like, there's a farm, like,
Uh-huh.
literally. I'm
Yeah.
at G&M for seafood, like, I'm in the city again, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's very diverse, even not just across the state, but almost it is a very unique
Absolutely.
state.
Yeah, so that
So
makes it a challenge, right? Trying to reach
yes,
young
yes.
adults, especially in this fast-paced, how everything is changing so quickly, trying to convince them that you're conveying something that's worth their time, I think is
Mhm.
one of the biggest because they're used to these
Yeah.
snappy TikTok, tell me in 10 seconds or I'm scrolling.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yes, okay, so I've got a couple specific ideas for you. I'm making some notes, but let me put a few things. Let me share the screen here. And as I saw in the chat there, Kelly had a fire drill, so
Oh
that's why
no.
she jumped off. So she might jump
Terrible.
back on, but she's
Yeah.
probably wandering around outside her building.
Yikes.
Um, let me see. Uh, let me get back to. I'm going to share my whole screen. So let me cancel that for a second. Um, let me show. Show a couple of them while I'm here. So the series is a series of 10 modules,
Hmm.
and you can use any of them that you choose. They are each standalone. So
Mm.
let me see how I share my screen here.
I
Each
always have to figure
each
that
one
out depending on.
standalone and is self-contained, and then you
Okay.
can put them together in various um, mini series,
Hmm.
however you choose to. So, okay, let's see if I can do this. Oops. There. Can you see that writability
Hmm.
module? Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
There's a bunch of stuff showing at the top. Here we go. Let's see if I can. Okay, is that better? Can you see
Mm-hmm.
the full
Sure.
screen?
That
All
works.
right, looky there. Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can just can I scroll out a little bit? There we go. There we go. Okay, so I don't love the way I'm viewing this, but
Mm.
that's a little bit smaller. So you can let me just show you kind of the whole look.
Yeah.
So that's the cover. You can see how it's
Mm-hmm.
just a
Laid
little
out.
bit, laid out here.
Yeah. Child friendly.
Some white space, some note-taking space,
Sure.
some
Yeah.
activities and places to write. So you see that. Um, see that. And then the sort of swooshy, we're
Mm-hmm.
on the move sort of look.
Yep.
Um, let me see. Okay, there we go. I can see what I can do here. I wanted to show you a particular module. Okay, so let's look at this workability module. Gosh, this is an odd view. It's not the one I thought I
Well,
was.
don't worry too much. I'm getting.
Okay, okay, I will not then. Um, so, so this one's called workability, and
Mm.
this has been sort of the hallmark piece. Again, you don't have to teach this one, but workability is really the one that teaches people, why does your job exist? And the answer really is because the employer believes that by hiring someone into this work, that person will make them more money than they cost
Right.
them.
Right.
Right? They don't hire someone because somebody else left, or because they got money laying around, or because there's a job description they got to fill it. They hire someone because they literally decided, if we pay someone $15 an hour, which of course doesn't cost us $15 an hour, if we pay someone $15 an hour, they cost us between 30 to 80% more than that. So
Mm-hmm.
20 to $25 an hour,
With the overhead.
possibly 100% more, possibly $30 an hour. We believe that that's going to make us at least that much.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're a for-profit, we'd really like you to make us more than we're paying, more than we're paying to have you, right?
Right.
So workability, working so you and your organization win. Um, I'm going to pop over here for just a moment and show you something. So this is a side by side with, on the left, we've got the original series,
Mm.
and on the right, we've got the evolved series. So with the original series, um, the tagline of the original series was what employers really want today. And the focus was heavily on exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a definition, a working definition for each of these titles. So with adaptability, you see that our working definition was adaptability, navigating success in a changing workplace, subtitle. But the working definition, and this is from the employer's perspective.
Right.
Adaptability is a worker's constant state of readiness and ability to respond quickly and appropriately to key changes while continuously delivering excellence and a great attitude for their company.
Right.
It's adaptability. And the good news is that employer focus exists in the evolved
Mm-hmm.
curriculum. I think the additional good news is that whereas in the original curriculum, the individual learner is really not present in that definition, they're spoken of in the third person.
Right.
The big change in the evolved curriculum is um, we've really brought the individual into the picture as a fully functioning partner in this process. That's one of the biggest evolutions in the workplace, is that
Mm-hmm.
Americans are just not willing to give up what we used to give up and trade what we used to trade for a job. And we see this in our young people. They just don't get it. They're willing to say, I don't want that job. If I can't dress the way I want to dress, no thanks.
Right. Right.
I'm not working those hours. And many of us are saying, wait a minute. What do you mean you're not gonna hang on? We
Right.
didn't realize you could say no thanks. We didn't realize, when I was 15, my dad sat me down and said, "This is an application. Welcome to the
Yeah.
world."
Sure.
Nobody asked me if I wanted to work. It
Yeah.
was just, where do you want to work?
Right.
Yeah. And so Americans across the board, somewhat inspired by younger people, are taking a lot more permission about whether they want to work, where they want to work, how they want
Hmm.
to work, when, all of that. And so if we
Yeah.
look at our new definition of adaptability, thriving in unpredictable times,
Mm.
we see that the individual is much more present.
Yeah, and I like to see, generating the win for both you and the organization, the sort of collaborative
Yep.
viewpoint, because that's what I'm also trying to pitch to employers and say we want to, include you. That's sort of my role is to interface with those employers and include them
Mhm.
in the planning process, include them in the speaking and engaging with youth
Yeah.
and convincing them that this truly is an investment, hopefully for themselves and their future pipeline, maybe not tomorrow, but in 3 or 4 years as this develops, as well as for the kids. You may not have a job with this employer tomorrow, but you don't know where your path may take you in a few years, and these are the skills they're asking for. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially with the individual mindset, kids are so they want to have the tools given and just let them sort of self-assess and self, blaze that trail. It's very
Mhm.
American in a way, but
Yeah.
it's a change in the, I think there used to be a lot more of a deference to authority. I want to know what, a
Right.
person who's worked this job for 10, 20 years, I want to hear what they have to say. Many kids today don't start with that mindset. They just think
Right.
they can take what exists and make it work, right? For better
Yeah.
or for worse,
For
often I
better
think
or
for the
worse. Yeah.
worse, but it's different perspectives. And so, regardless, it's nice to see. I am still curious, a little bit about what the breadth of it is. So I can see the
Yes.
adaptability, communication ability,
Yes.
dependability, and those are all different modules, I assume, in their
Yes,
own
so we'll
right.
look at those. But just
Right.
real quick, so we see that the, tagline was what employers really want today, and now you see that the tagline for the Evolve series is generating a win-win
Mm,
in an evolving workplace.
yep.
So the
Hmm.
back end of that definition of adaptability in ways that generate a win for your organization and for you, that is literally the back end of every one of these
Sure.
definitions.
That's
So
the theme.
that's a big change.
Great.
So if we look at, let's say we look at, let me go back to that workability.
Hmm.
So this one really digs into that, generating a win-win in an evolving workplace. So we start each module with a sort of two-page spread that's sort of an orientation, getting each of these workbooks is 12 pages.
Hmm.
The first 2 pages sort of responds to the questions, what are we doing? What's the topic? What is this about? And the second question is, let me just jump in and let in whoever is
Yeah.
getting the
Take your time.
yeah, in the room
Maybe
there.
it's Kelly, we hope.
Might be Kelly, yes. Whoops, here we go. It is Kelly. She's back. Oops. Kelly, are you back?
Sorry about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a fire drill right now. Oh my gosh.
All
If I
right.
didn't have
Welcome
any
back.
students, Kelly, I used to hide in my classroom until the alarm went off and just wait it out instead of leaving the building because I don't care for my safety. Anyway,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. The module. Can you see that, Kelly?
Yes.
All right. So there's the evolved logo, just slightly evolved. Workability, working so you and your organization win. Nice curvy cover. New tagline, generating a win-win in an evolving workplace. So we still want employers to get what they want, but we also want our individuals to get a win. And the first 2 pages of every workbook, all of which are now 12 pages, um, we've got 2 pages that really ask and answer the questions: what are we doing? What's the topic? What is this workshop about? The second question they're asking is, how am I doing around this topic? And the third question is sort of, why should I care? What's in it for me to lean in and care and dig in and get some goodness from this workbook in this class? So here with the workability, we have win-win. What's it to me? What does a win-win even look like? I wish I could just zoom out a smidge. Um, I'm going to see if I can. Here we go. There we go. So all of the workbooks start with this my job or job target. And Carl, that's because this can be used with people who are job seeking. So my job target. Or you could also use it with people who have a job and they want to use this to get better at the job that they have right now. So my job or my job target. And the idea is they would write that down. If they got a couple jobs they're thinking of, they could say, choose one. And just so as they're going through the workbook, they've got a job they're sort of thinking of and applying these ideas to one specific job, which will help them learn it. And then they could apply it to other jobs if they want to. And the idea here is win win. What's it to me? And one of the things you'll notice is in this series, like every blank space, every activity, every white space, there will never be a time ever, ever, ever in this series where you are asking people to fill in the blank with the right answer. There's never one right answer. And these workbooks are not ever telling anybody the one best way to do anything. We're saying here's a couple of options. Or here's what highly adaptable people or highly dependable people. Here's 3 great ways to do it, or six things that are proven. Let's learn about them and then choose 1 or 2 that work for you, that will work for you and your organization. And pick those up and own them and start to build those habits, commit to them and start doing them. It's always about which do you choose, which will work for you. If the one that you want isn't on there, write it in and circle that one. It's always about letting them choose what will work for them, decide what will work for them, and create their plan. It's not about getting the right answer. So it's always about them building what's going to work for them. So win win, what does it mean to me? And you see here, we're helping them understand there's a lot of ways to get a win. And in fact, what we're saying here is not every winning partnership looks the same. So the win win is your organization and you getting a win. And we're going to start by saying, here's 4 different winning types of partnerships. And we've got 2 extremes on the edges and 2 in the middle. If you take a look at those sort of win win statements, and the 2 on the outside, they are sort of extreme. And with that, we're saying, create your win-win statement. And with this one that says, I want all my top needs met, and if that's not happening, I'm out of here. There will be a part of us, perhaps, if we're boomers or Xers and we paid our dues and we played by the rules, that we want to say, good luck with that. That doesn't really happen. And it's not common, it's not easy, but it does happen. And if we want to be credible, and if we want our learners to lean in, we have to admit that that does happen. So there's a little statement below that says this can work. If you've got hard to find skills or you're going for a hard to fill job, I mean, there are people we know who have superpowers and they don't necessarily have to always be on time or be at every meeting, or they get to maybe dress a little differently because they're doing a job or they're bringing skills that not everybody has, right? So let's be honest. And if somebody says, "Hey, that's me," then instead of saying, that's not really an option," we need to say, "Okay, so what are you bringing that will make it worth it for your organization?" Because the way you're going to get all your top needs met is you got to make sure they're getting enough of their needs met as well. So how do we help you get your needs met? You're going to help them get their needs met too. So just what does win-win look like for you? They're going to create their statement and they're going to start with themselves. We've got that always on the bottom of the first left-hand side. There is the definition of the topic at hand, workability. Knowing the essentials of what both parties want from the working partnership, and then consistently delivering it in ways that generate a win for both. So that's sort of the lay of the land. Like, what's the topic here? What are we talking about? And then how am I doing? There's a quiz here. No wrong answers, just 1 through 5. No to yes. How am I doing? Rate your current workability. They get a chance to do that. The more 4s and 5s you have, the stronger you are as you start out. The strategies in the workbook here can help you get even stronger. Why does it matter? Listen, if you're already strong, still ask yourself this. If I improve, what can I get that's important to me? What can I give that's important for my workplace? And this is really why should I lean in?
So if you don't mind me popping in,
Yeah.
I've already said I like the content a lot. I like the theme and perspective of the individual. I like the metacognition that's built in to try and guide them towards, thinking through their own personal
Hmm.
paths. My last real question, just from my perspective, and I think Kelly might share some of this. I don't think I foresee myself, say, printing a workbook, handing it to a student, and then proceeding from that directly, say, from a bald approach. I do see myself definitely taking what works for the students I'm working with from the workbook, from the materials that are, provided, maybe, and of course with, citation included, because I want to make sure, all materials credited to where it comes from. But
Hmm.
frequently, teachers, what they will do is take a screenshot, take a snip of a piece of a module that they
Hmm.
know this moment is going to work for my kids, and I know I can deliver this. So I'm curious how open and amenable, you are to that concept of sort of taking and, picking and choosing.
Thank you for asking. Yeah, that is not how this system works. We're not funded to provide this. This is a
Hmm.
public-private partnership. So you would need to purchase the materials for each of your learners. That's how
Yeah.
this works.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So,
Very good.
yeah.
So
Um,
that information was shared with us in the training.
mhm.
And basically, at that time, I knew that what I'd be doing is from a workforce perspective, that I would be assisting with making sure Office of Community Wealth Building had all of the individuals coming
Mhm.
in and got everything that they needed. And so what the partnership that we built was that they would purchase all the material, make sure that everyone had what they need. I would come with my master book that I have here with me now
Yep. Your
and
training
be
book.
able to,
Mhm.
yes. So I was trying to see did anything change with that. So that was
Yeah.
a really good question, Carl. Because
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
asked in my training.
Yeah, so this is a public-private partnership and we're not funded to provide it. So yeah, you would purchase the workbooks for each of your students. That's how this works.
Sure. And then
So you would need to build that
presuming that
into
they
it.
are each of them purchased per student, right? Purchased as included. But I'm saying once they've been purchased, is it possible to, on our end, take pieces, rearrange them to our needs as needed, once they've been purchased?
Yes, but I mean they're consumable and each student would take them and be writing
Sure.
in them and work. Yeah. I mean you can teach them in what I mean however you want once you have
Okay.
them. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right.
Yeah, and in fact, I'll just jump back in quickly, and I'll move very quickly through this. I mean, you're getting the idea here. We don't need to um, be so minute, but I'll just show a few other things here. So writability. So with workability, the other thing I just wanted to get eyes on in terms of the lay of the land as we get started, and this is another nod to what we're doing with the evolution is keeping it very flexible and again you can teach it. We're not going to tell you how to teach it.
Hmm.
There is a certification training because we want people. I mean, Carl, you're trained as a teacher facilitator. You understand the brain science underneath this. A lot of people training these things are not. They don't think like employers, and they also are not trained as teachers. And these are two important things. So we've got
Right.
some training that comes with this. It's brief, it's fun, but we want to make sure it's in the hands of people with at least some of that training. Um, but then you can take it and run with it. But there's a piece down here at the bottom of page 3. There's a definition of workplace excellence. But in this case, and in the case of many of the new and evolved workbooks, is this choose your own adventure. So at this point, the two things you want to dig into in this workbook is getting to know how organizations win, right? Understanding that in general, but also then digging into how the organization that you work for or want to work for is going to get their wins. And then also getting clear on what's important to you as an individual and the wins that you want so you can work toward them. And you could take a vote and decide, okay, do we want to take a look at the wins we want, or do we want to dig into what the organizations want? Where do we want to go first? And like a choose your own adventure book, you can go wherever you want. You could divide and conquer and have half the group do one, half a group do the other, then share out. You could go anywhere you want. So, and then the book then proceeds how organizations win, for profits, governments, and nonprofits. digging into that. Most of us, I think it's the research says 76% of us work for for-profits. So really understanding how for-profits win. And this was big in the original series, understanding profit and how we do that, understanding we need to be worth twice what we're being paid. If we want to raise in promotion, we want to be worth 3 times what we're being paid. And then how do we do that? Helping how my organization wins, examples, activities. And then we get into how I win at work. What's the good stuff I want? What's important to me? My favorite things about work, and then my bottom line. Talk about the organization's bottom line. What's my bottom line? What are the top wins I want? What exchange do I want to make? How am I going to get what I want from work? And then the unwritten rules for winning in the workplace. So, how am I going to get them what they want? How am I going to make sure I get what I want? And then every one of the workbooks ends with this page, which we encourage you as facilitator and the learners throughout as they capture a lesson. Oh, that's good, I want to remember that. Or there's a commitment I want to make, to jump over to page 11, write down those top lessons, write down those commitments. And at the end, if there are lessons and commitments they want to take with them, they get them on this final page. And this is something that if they have a coach or a job developer, someone that they're working with, this is a landing page that helper could come to. What was most important? What are you doing next? How can I support you? Where are we going from here? What are you going to do with what you learned? This becomes a bit of an action plan. And then Kelly, instead of having the bottom line, we would come back to the employer's bottom line in the original version. We're coming back to the win-win. Your organization's going to get a win in this area. You're going to get a win. And then some top strategies to get the win-win in terms of workability. So each of the workbooks ends with a page like this. The content is unique to the topic, but structurally it looks like this.
I love it.
Yeah. So
I,
it's
yeah, I
it
do
feels
think it looks
familiar
great.
enough. Hmm?
I'm sorry, I do think it looks great. I unfortunately have another meeting. I just had to jump
Yes.
off to,
Ah,
but
All right.
I will reach out again and thank you so much for your time.
And there's a
Because
couple things I'll send you as a follow-up.
yeah,
And yeah, let's talk again when you have questions, and
I'd love
we can
to.
do a one-on-one, and yeah, anything
O-
we can do to help you answer the questions you have. Thanks,
Okay, thanks so
Carol.
much. All right,
Yep.
thanks for your time and
Take care.
all right,
bye
bye-bye.
bye.
So I'm in awe. I'm looking at my book and looking at what's new and has evolved. I am looking forward to speaking with Shawanda and Sandy to find out when can we get started.
Yes.
We had a plan before Shawanda. I think she was getting married. I think something was
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
before she was getting married. She had a plan and she was trying to put together a schedule of who would be coming and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to get back on the schedule because I gave her a couple of dates that fell through
Yes.
on Office of Community Welfare. And I think they changed how they were going to be doing these
Mm-hmm.
sessions. And so what she really wanted us to do is to come in, each person come in, decide which one you were going to teach. And then,
Oh,
you would do that. So I am going to contact her and see if we
very
can
good.
get back
I'm
on the
looking at something
schedule.
I have from her, so I'm just looking around at these
Okay.
names here. I'll tell you my recent conversations with her, and she and I have been talking. So there's a couple things we've got going on. Our team, we've got a 3-day certification event that we're offering a couple times in June. However, for you and people like you who have been certified, we are offering a 1-session renewal. So you get to take a deep dive into this, really get familiar with the evolved curriculum. You don't need to go through how to think like the employer again, all
Right.
the underpinnings of the brain science for the teaching stuff, but you'll want to carve out some time to see how it's showing up here and to get familiar with this curriculum. And there is new content in it. Can I show you the writability?
Oh,
Do you
yeah,
guys are you familiar with writability? What are the ones that like? Tell me one you want to see. Like I think adaptability.
adaptability, communication ability,
Mhm.
dependability, presentability, reasonability.
I'll
sus-
tell you that presentability and respectability. You know that those were updated last year.
Oh,
So those are
oh,
currently
that was
updated.
my next one.
We're
Okay,
going to evolve those, but they haven't been evolved yet because they were updated recently. Want to get the other ones to print. So you might have seen the latest, greatest on those.
okay,
Writability has a lot of new content in it. So
okay.
that's exciting. And adaptability, to me, adaptability is almost the new hallmark piece
Ah,
because that's the name of the game these
right,
days, like adaptability.
especially
So
right
can I show you that one?
now. Yes,
You want to
absolutely,
see it? Because
absolutely.
it's fun. Let's see. That's suitability. Let's go. Okay.
CCWA going to be doing another session, do you know? I can reach out
Um,
to Sandy, but
the yeah, I've been talking to Sandy also. So yeah, both Sandy and Shawanda have got plans. So yeah,
okay,
for sure.
all right.
Okay, so let me just so you've got another few minutes here.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, okay, let me
absolutely.
just we'll go quickly, but get your eyes on this here.
Okay,
So this is adaptability. Let's share this one. All right, can you see it?
yes,
So there's the logo, just a little twist like it's going somewhere,
I
right?
love it. I love it.
There's adaptability, thriving in unpredictable times, generating a win-win. We got that job box, so pop your job in there, be thinking about it the whole time. Why is the workplace changing? How is it changing? So that feels similar, although it's all been updated because fresh
Yes.
research. So what changes are you seeing? But look at the new example there, or the new definition.
Mm. Oh,
And these are the three things: possessing the mindset, what touch my
uh-huh.
temples, possessing the capability, little jazz hands, right? Get this, like the got skills in your hands, and the vitality, which is sort of the health, the well-being. So the
Love.
mindset, the capability, and the vitality to respond well to constant changes in
Mm,
ways that generate the win for both you and your workplace, right?
I love it.
So adaptability is more important than ever. Those who have it can survive and thrive. So how am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
And if you got lots of fours and fives, your adaptability is strong. And I love this saying, be ready so you don't have to get ready.
Oh my gosh, my son says it to my grandson on the football field every
Yep.
week.
Yep. If you start getting ready when somebody's running at you, guess what? Sorry,
Oh,
that's not going to work. You got to
yeah.
be ready so you don't have to get ready, right?
Wait until I tell him that you said that.
Yep. And how do you have to be ready in terms of your mindset, your capability, and your
And your
vitality,
vitality. Yeah.
right? And so think about this. Let's say you got a mindset for change.
Mm-hmm.
You're ready for it. You welcome it. You can embrace it when it gets here. You're all about it. And maybe capability wise, you're keeping your skills strong. You're watching for those trends. You're growing your network. So mindset and capability wise, you are good to go. But vitality wise, you're not taking care of your body. You're not getting good sleep. You're worn out.
Right.
So you know what? It's going to be hard to
Mm-hmm.
maintain some adaptability.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say your mindset's good and your vitality is good. You're taking care of your mind. You're taking care of your body. But your capability is you're not keeping your skills up to date. Your knowledge is old. You don't want to learn one more set of regs and one more generation and one more legislation. Oh. So
Mm-hmm.
you know what? It's going to be hard for you to make. So any of these two without the other
Right.
you just it's going to be rough. So these are the three areas, and this was hard. This was a hard one to figure out. Once I figured out like this, I mean, the research on this was rough. But once I got this structure, I'm like, okay. So then we got to choose your own adventure. You can jump anywhere. Okay, guys, what do we want to explore first? Mindset, capability, or vitality? Isn't that fun? And that's adaptable. Why does it matter? Let's take a little minute. What are we going to get that's important to us? What are we able to give to our workplace that's important for them? If we build this, if we're already strong, what if we're stronger? If you're not strong here, what if you take a few steps forward,
Wow.
right? And then we dive in. We get into mindset. We get into the mindset piece. We have some fun with it. Here's some strategies for building your mindset. And some of this will feel familiar,
Right.
but
Yeah.
we brought it up to speed. Being positive, shifting your mindset, that mindset manipulation, that big screen, little screen activity,
Mm-hmm.
and then believing in yourself, being your own cheerleader.
Oh my gosh, this is good stuff.
Isn't it fun? And then capability. And here's what people who are adaptable do. We got to get trendy. We got to be watching those trends. And there's a chance to say, how strong am I at this today? And
Right.
what are the trends? And where am I going to find it? What are the trends and the sources of trends? Get techie, be techie. What are the new technologies for the work I want to do? Skill up. What skills do I need? And where am
Mhm.
I going to find them? I'm going to drop down here real quick to reach out. How am I, who are my people?
Mm,
Right? And there's a couple of things that we all need. And one is skills for everybody. We all need to learn well, get
mhm,
comfortable with uncertainty, be resilient, be a problem solver, and we got to get comfortable with this AI. How we doing? And then this last one, little changes for big results. That's just a good way to daily build your adaptability. And that's, you know, that's a echo from the other one,
yes. Yes, I had
that's
a lot
just a
of
good
fun with
one.
that one.
And then vitality. What are you already doing to keep your body strong? And then how can you tend to it? There's all these bits. Give yourself A, B, C, D, F. Just give yourself a grade. You don't have to share, so just have a moment. Be honest,
Mhm,
right? And then where you're at A or B, congrats. Carry on. If you've given yourself a C, a D, or an F, you know, take a look at a couple of those. And what
mhm,
can you do? There's some ideas here. What can you do? And there's a star, like, can you make anything you want to make a commitment to? Are you going to get a little more sleep? Are you going to unplug at night? Are you going to spend a little more time outdoors or connect with your people a little more and not isolate quite so much? You're going to, what are you going to do? And add that to page 11, make some commitments. And then here's our pieces on managing stress better. And although that's brought up to speed, that'll feel familiar, right? And then the 5A approach, again, cleaned up, tightened up, brought up to speed. That'll feel familiar. And then generating a win-win. What are my lessons? What are my commitments? Adaptability for the win-win,
wow.
right? And now it's systematic. And I can come out of here saying, listen, my mindset is rock solid. Thank
Right,
God. You know, and
right.
capability wise, like my skills are good, but you know what? Those trends, I wasn't thinking about trends. So capability, like my knowledge is good, my skills are good. I'm not looking at trends though.
Mhm,
And vitality wise, man, I got to take better care of myself, or
right,
all the knowledge in the world isn't going to help me manage this.
exactly.
It's coming at me so fast. And the truth is, I'm tired.
Oh my gosh, this is such good stuff.
Isn't it fun? And they really are more systematic like this. Like it's a way for me to say, I know where I'm strong and I know where I need work and
Right,
I know how I'm going to work on it.
exactly.
So
Exactly. I love it.